Hi guys, it's Sophie from Sophie Knits. This is my second stash update. As I said, whoops, I've definitely bought way too much yarn in the last quarter and I sense a yarn buying ban in my future. But what we're going to try and do today is just wrangle this a little bit, update my spreadsheet first and then I'll update my Ravelry off screen, just to get it all back into categories. There's a lot going on here. So I think what I'm going to do is just talk you through a little bit about my storage. Also, that's all had to change because we have got moths. Worst nightmare. My mum recently moved into a big house and unfortunately the house has a moth infestation. So they're getting it treated, fumigated, the whole lot. It's bad in their house. And I have somehow managed to take them back with me, which is just a proper shame. So we're currently just trying, because we don't have the same level of infestation as them, we're just trying some more natural methods. I'm using parasitic wasps actually to try and knock it on the head, but if that isn't successful we will get our house fumigated too, because I just can't be doing with that. So I have no more open yarn storage at all in the whole house because I just don't want to risk it, and all of the yarn that you've seen in the intro has been frozen, so I know this yarn is safe. It's just a matter of being more prepared, I guess, than you would be preventatively when you know that you have some moths, and we're hoping that those more natural methods might help solve it, because we know it's in infestation rather than one that has started here, if that makes sense. We know it's probably one female moth that's come home with us. We'll see how we go. So let's talk a little bit about what I've got, and I will do some updating kind of off screen in between. So the way that I tend to categorise my yarn is into kind of scrap types and then into whole types. So this is one of my sock. It's intended for socks. It's not all fingering weight, and not all fingering weight comes in these, but these are the ones I intend to use for socks. So these are all up to date. There's the Bien-Aimé in the colour Coquelicot, and that one I've used for normal socks, full socks. It didn't work at all. They have had holes in them twice. I've had to keep darning them. So this one I'm going to save for colour work on the cuff, but it's still really cool, like the colour, so yeah, we'll keep that one. And then I have some Sockier by Coop Knits in the colour Wandle, and down the bottom I have a little bit left of Harvest by the Woolen Witch. So that is one of my scraps intended for future colourwork socks. And then the second one I have is here. I have just this tiny little bit up here of Clefautis by Loom Wool. I love Loom Wool. It's a independent dyer in the southwest. Really love their colourways. And then the bottom one is John Arbon's Exmoor sock, again really local to us, and that one is in the colourway Hemel. So those are all of my scraps that are intended for making socks, and all of those I know are up to date on my spreadsheet, so that's a good start. And those are food grade containers, so they are airtight. Then here in this little bag are all of my non-lace weight scraps. So I separate out my lace weight scraps just because I think they get a bit tangled. So I'll show you what's in here. And then these bags go inside of a blanket storage box. They are specifically for moth proofing, for winter storage, so that's what these go into. Sorry, pussycat. So I've got a bit left of Noria Ito in the shade IAs, and that's from my Step by Step sweater. I have Le Bien-Aimé in Sandstone, and I was planning on using this, but originally this made a hat, but I frogged the hat. I didn't enjoy the hat, and I thought, oh, it's easy, I'll use them for socks. But I've now found that I don't really like it, despite the fact this is actually their sock yarn. I don't really like it in socks. I just find that it doesn't hold up as well as my other socks do, and I wear my hand knit socks a lot. So I'm not sure what to do with this. If you have any ideas, let me know. I have just a little bit left of West Yorkshire Spinners, the Croft Aran, and this is in the shade Belmont. and then an even tinier scrap of Cardiff Cashmere Classic in the colour Hermes. And again, I know that all of these are on my spreadsheet. Then lace weight scraps. We have some Knitting for Olive Soft Silk Mohair, this is in the colour Bordeaux. And then somehow it snuck in. I think maybe it was in my mending pile and then I have taken out as much as I need to mend. So I do have, I call it my mending library. I have like a little box, like a box file with zipping compartments, and I put just like a few meters of each yarn type from my larger projects into those for mending. And they don't get counted in my stash because the hope is they're there for when I need them. But this one was too large. This is obviously not a mending quantity. So we need to just weigh this one. I think I said it's Alpaca Foldergrad in the colour Black by Sanders Garn. And how am I going to weigh it? Hang on, let me just try this on a hard surface. So it's 10 grams of that one. So I will just pop that one into my stash. There we go. So as I say, these ones go in these little bags just to separate them really, and then they all go into a moth-proof winter storage box. Okay, now we're into like sweater quantities, project quantities, full schemes basically. So what I'm going to do is, I know there's some that have dropped off of this. I'm going to use another one of the large bags and gather some sweater quantities together. So I have this Cascade 220 Superwash Merino. This is in the shade Charcoal Heather, and this is one that I haven't tried before and have picked up to make a jumper for my mum, but that's going to be for next winter, so that's why this one is going to go up into the blanket storage. This is the wool that my mum had that unfortunately brought the moths in, so this one has been double frozen. But yes, and I have checked it to make sure that there's no larvae, nothing going on in there. We'll see what it's like when I unwind it. So let's put all of these ones into their own little bag. Okay, and then the next sweater quantity that is not going to be used for a minute or two is the stuff I bought recently from Along Avec Anna. That was an absolute joy, by the way, to go into that shop. I hadn't realised it was in Exeter, which is pretty close to us, so that was lovely to go and have a nose. And I've got their double merino in the shades June and Amethyst, and this is to make a sibling sweater for Wit for next winter. So again, I'm going to put all of these ones into their own separate bag. And then we're into upcoming projects, or things I think I'm going to work on fairly soon. These go into this plastic tote, which goes on my yarn shelf. So I have this Knitting for Olive Merino in the shade Navy Blue, and that one is to make my Cinema sweater, so I'll put that one in. I then have my Knitting for Olive Pure Silk in the colour Cream. We have 5 balls of these ones. And then I have Sanders Garn Line, and this is in colour 3820. I think this is like a kind of pearly grey. And I have 6 of these, and that is for my Savey top. And then my last, my second to last full garment quantity is this Kremke Soul Wool, and it's Morning Salutation. The shade is 25. It's kind of like a really nice deep red. I'm really excited for this one. And I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of those. Is that one all filled up with my sweater quantities? I'll pop a lid on that one. I've got a few lavender sachets and little sanded cedar balls in there as well. Then my last garment quantity, which is caked up actually because I'm going to cast this one probably today, is this one, which is Hedgehog Fibres in, I think it's their singles, in the colour Ghost. I have 3 of these, and that is to make my Moonset tee. So yes, really excited, going to swatch for that one later today. So that one is actually going to go into a project bag. I have again got some lavender in my project bags. I'm less worried about my project bags, and I say that because I'm a pretty monogamous knitter, so they're never still for very long. They're picked up at least once a day and knitted with at least once a day, so I haven't seen any activity in any of my project bags. Obviously all the wool that's in them has still been frozen. And then the last two things I have are two other fingering weights, which are whole skeins but which have been caked up. So the first is this one, which is another Le Bien Aimé, and this is in the colour Undergrowth, destined for the hat that never was. Unsure of what to do with that one. And this one, which is Opal sock yarn in the colour Cream, and this is destined for some ruffle socks. So that is everything that I have, bar those things that are currently attached to projects. So let's see, I'm going to do a little bit of totting up and I'll meet you downstairs to do a bit of a like accountability check-in. Hello. So faffing about has been achieved and we're here for a bit of a grand total. So what I'm going to do is just share the weight of the yarn and then how much I have in grams of each. So I have 145 grams of Aran weight yarn, 900 grams of worsted weight yarn, 1,258 grams of DK, but 600 of that is very nearly finished. So I count them as finished when I've fully finished a project, and by the end of March, we've still got 2 days left, I'm 100% going to have used all of that. I may even finish it tonight. That's what I'm using for my sweater number 29, and it is very nearly out. So the adjusted total for that would be 658, which I think is more realistic for the end of the month. I then have 22 grams of sport, 1,427 grams of fingering weight yarn. That's a lot of fingering weight yarn. 176 grams of lace weight, but bear in mind, again, I'm nearly finished with 150 grams of that, so that would leave me only 26 grams of lace weight, I think, as our adjusted, which again feels more reasonable for what I'd actually have. So the total that I have in my stash as of now, without those that have been adjusted, is 3.9 kilograms. But I think the adjusted total, the likely total that I will have at the end of March, is 3.178 kilograms. Quite a lot of yarn. I've done just a little bit of a like, what's happened to my stash. I know what happened, I bought more yarn than I've used, but I think it's interesting to like break it down by month. So if I do March as is right now, I've only used 66 grams. So that's because I've only had one finished project in March, which was Tom's socks, which I haven't shown you guys yet. And I don't put on my jumper until it's finished, and that's obviously going to have 750 grams. It's going to massively increase March's total. In January, I used 1,042 grams, so I did really well in January, and in February I used 600, which is pretty good, I think. That was essentially like one whole finished project with some leftovers. And then if we go through purchases, I bought 500 grams in January, 1,200 grams in February, and 1,600 grams in March. So we've crept up so that I've basically bought near enough twice as much as I've used in the last quarter. That's why I think a yarn buying ban might be time. I think that probably is what we're at now, just to make sure that I don't acquire anything else. I think in the month of April, I'm going to say, and then May we'll go back just to business as usual. I've also broken it down with how much I think I'd use per month on average, and I am including my 600 and 150 that I think I'll use because I'm so nearly there in March. So if we do that, the average use per month is 820 grams of yarn, and for the amount of yarn I currently have, that would take me 3.8 months to completely empty my stash. Now obviously some of that stash is scraps, which will hang around for a while, so I don't think I'm planning on completely emptying it, but it's good to know that I have about 3 months worth of knitting left. So it's definitely time to slow it back down again so that I don't end up with too much, particularly because of the fact we have moths. I don't want to have too much yarn that's sitting around for too long, but 3 months worth of stash feels pretty good, it feels pretty comfy, even though it's on my top limit, I would say, of what I want to have. Hopefully it's been interesting to see some kind of where I've been at this quarter. I'm hoping that I've been able to do some like video magic with comparing this month to last month. We'll see what I come up with, but yes, I've enjoyed chatting to you guys about stash. Let me know in the comments down below how your stash is doing, how you're feeling going into the spring summer, and I'll look forward to seeing you again soon in my next video. Alright, bye!